Steven here, your DS for Kaze Kicker. This is an entirely new route for Zwift Games 2026. As a result, I'll be using 3 different races worth of footage. Today's course will have 2 decisive climbs that will decide your race. Multiple rolling resistance traps throughout, but above all, we see this as not just a climber's race, it's a positioning race. The opening 3.3 kilometers has the philosophy of saving everything. This section is new, sandy, and pancake flat. It's important to remember, if you're not seeing dust flying around your wheels, there's no rolling resistance penalty. Throughout this section, there's no dust, and this is not a race yet. The golden rule, if you're pushing big watts here, you're doing it wrong. Making our way through the Tidepool Sprint Reverse, new segment, our power-up will roll. Do not burn matches here, even if the pace picks up slightly. The goal is to arrive at the Pain Cavern fresh as can be. The front group will be intact, and your heart rate needs to be controlled. The Pain Cavern climb is the first true selection of this race. Positioning before the climb is important. Before the climb, stay in the back. There's a slight descent before the climb begins. I recommend putting in a 5 to 6 second dig from the rear at about 80 to 90% of your power. This allows you to move up through the group without overcooking. If your nose touches the front, that's completely okay and honestly ideal. Riders will move up behind you and you can slide easily into their draft. You already have that momentum. Importantly, this buys you flexibility for the climb. No pushing from the rear to try to get into position, you're already there. In my race, I failed to do this, and suffering begins immediately. The climb profile is simple, 1.34 miles, 3% average, staircase style. You'll see red gradients around 6%, then quick dips into yellow at 1 to 3. This is great news for heavier riders, as you can use this draft to stay with the lighter ones. In this first staircase selection, be near the front. When the gradient turns to blue, this is your chance to recover. If you're increasing your power in this mid-blue section, you're in trouble. Just after is a figure 8 that begins with a 5% drag. What I see as a race splitter, because this is where riders begin to crack. In this footage, you can see this happening to me. Distance from the group, podium out of the question. Transitioning to new footage where I rode this more efficiently, you can see in this midsection, I'm able to briefly come off the pedals for some power numbers in the blue and the green. This sneakily allows riders to push ahead of me for the next climbing sections, so their nose is in the wind, not mine. I can benefit from the draft. Feathers then begin to pop, the draft begins to weaken, and momentum dies in this 5% drag. You will need to put in short digs on these steep ramps, but soon after, there's yellow sections where you can draft again. Above all, don't make any ego moves. Your goal is to crest this climb in the largest group, not attacking, especially not chasing. Be mindful of the pace and motivated chasers as well. If there's flyers off the front and the group wants to keep the pace high, don't let off the wheels. Use their draft and stay in position. As you exit the Pain Cavern, nearly 3/4 of the race still remains. Importantly, don't chase flyers. A solo rider is not going to be holding off a charging group from this distance. If they do, they deserve to win. Remember your tactics, stay in the bunch, and let the momentum do the work. The next section, Neokyo Flats, is a point of rest or regret. It's the longest flat portion of the route, and you'll pass Tower Sprint and collect your final power-up of the day. This is another newer bit of racing, as I've yet to see another route take a left at this bridge. Winding your way through Neokyo towards Tower Sprint, the segment itself is slippery, with a slight downhill finish before the banner. Yes, the pace might surge here, but perspective is important. If you're in the front, you're with a group of very select riders. Breaking those riders that survive the Pain Cave will be extremely difficult, especially on these flat sections on tarmac. What you want to do is sit in, follow the pace, even if it increases, and react calmly. Think ahead. If you do want to attack, there's gravel just ahead. Making a move on that rolling resistance will be much more successful than doing so now. Speaking of which, the gravel tunnel and the slack canyon descent is sneaky dangerous. We know that we enter into a gravel section because the dust is visible. This means rolling resistance is increased and the draft overall is far less effective. Like I said, this is a legitimate attack zone, but it's not a spot to worry. Stay in the largest bunch, don't get gapped, and remember, the extra effort here is small compared to what's ahead. That's because of the Slot Canyon descent. We start off gradual, -1 to -2%. As things get more and more twisty, we see -4 and -5 descents. Eventually, the tarmac returns, and throughout this entire section, if you look around, there's no dust. Even though things started that way, they don't exist when the road drops. This is your second major rest window. Flyers won't stay away, just spin the legs, fuel, take deep breaths, and mentally reset. Your marginal gains here will be a massive advantage for the sprint down the line. The Mech Isle Corkscrew climb is the final selection of today's race and where the race reshuffles. As we wind through the opening roads in the other direction, the road will slowly begin to rise. Taking a left into some palm trees, something interesting will happen. We were just on the sand where there's no dust, but in this section, you'll drop down briefly and see the dust returns. I've said this a few times, but it bears repeating. That dust means rolling resistance increases. Before that gravel dip, you need to be in the front third of the group. Failure to do so will result in more work, which you will see in my footage here. Pivoting briefly to the climb, it's only 0.7 kilometers with a 2.9% average and a 5% max. But this climb rides much harder than it looks. Nearly the entire climb is in the dusty gravel, and at the top is a wooden bridge that again increases rolling resistance. Steering here can also help slightly if you have a controller. Just make sure you don't leave the draft. It's there, just reduced. As you hit the top of this climb, riders will barely be hanging on. The front may even slow slightly. If there are flyers off the front, the steep descent that follows will likely group them back into the bunch. This is compounded if that second group reattaches as well. Overall, this is chaotic. Your objective is simple. Survive this in contact with the front. Do not explode yet trying to attack. Once you return to tarmac, there'll be a half a mile to the finish. As I signaled before, because of the descent and riders reattaching from the back of the group, this is not a time to finish long. Fighting gravity and group momentum from this distance will almost certainly fail. Carry your momentum, stay calm, react, and be in the front third of the group. This is especially important as there's a 2% drag before the Flamme Rouge. Attacking too early will likely blow your engine before the line. Unless you're a true long-range specialist, the legs will be hurting from the corkscrew climb. Failure to carry your momentum over the 2% drag may allow you for a decent finish, but you certainly won't podium. When you do carry that momentum and maintain your position in the front third, applying just enough power to avoid drifting backwards, you'll be in prime position when the sprint line appears. That is where I recommend letting loose. Late launch, maximum commitment. Momentum wins this finish. Hero moves likely die early.